Am I the asshole for deciding to use Mr. instead of he, him, to identify my gender to people? I work in a fairly large company with about 1,000 employees. I work in an office setting and emails are a huge part of my life. People have been using pronouns in their email signatures for years as well as photos for the messaging APS. About 2 years ago I noticed that some newly hired younger staff would misgender me in my emails, referring to me as Mrs. or she. It never bothered me really as my name could be considered for girls, although a bit unorthodox, and my photo was clear. And I clearly a man having a full big beard in photo. This continued for a while, and as a result, I kind of haphazardly placed a Mr. my name for the top of my email signature and has been that way for a year or so. I already went by Mr. last name to many coworkers as my first name is also common, so it felt natural to list my signature as such. Fast forward. Recently, our HR department has sent out a memo that requires everyone to list the pronouns in email sig. Fast forward another 3 months and I am called into an HR meeting, W2 HR business analysis and the HR manager for my division. There was certainly reminder emails over this time, but they were corporate-wide and not sent specifically to me as a reminder. I was shitting bricks, to be honest, and they let me know we had to discuss my email signature. They accused me of disregarding policy and gave me till end of week to change signature listing my pronouns, or else another meeting. I was fairly taken back by how serious they were treating it, and I responded saying that I already inform people of my gender with the use of Mr. and people will use the appropriate pronouns as a result. I mentioned that if for some reason someone didn't get the message and still misgendered me, I would not be upset, so no worries. They said I was potentially being disrespectful to clients and team members and my signature is not sufficient. I have always been respectful to my team and its many diverse members. I always use people's preferred pronouns if it comes up, and I really did not intend malice or disrespect when list my signature as such. Anyways, I am going to wait until last 5 minutes of my shift tomorrow to change it, and might go nuclear with some fun neo-pronouns or something. Ha. It's not a hill I am will to die on though, and the snipers already have the hill in scope lol. I am not some whack job who refuses to list their pronouns, but that's what they see. I'll likely take out the Mr. in the process or put it with everything else in the brackets and conform to the corporate beast. Am I the asshole in this scenario, or is it the corporate HR goons? I never really gave pronouns in email signatures that much thought really, except thinking it looked a bit messy listing after name in brackets. Mr. does a great job and has been putting in the work for years letting people know what's up. TLDR. Mr. is no longer an official way of recognizing someone's gender in an email signature according to her, and I'm an asshole because I think it does a sufficient job. Not the asshole. I respect people's decisions to list their pronouns in their email signature, but to me, it shouldn't mean everyone has to comply. Has anyone specifically complained about it? I feel like Mr. is enough and HR is going a little bit overboard. Weird hill to die on. You are the asshole to yourself. Info. Is it really that hard to just change it though? Like, why are you putting your feet down? Not the asshole. Not the asshole. Just tell them to address you as sir. Am I the asshole for telling my dad it's his job to explain stuff to my stepsister and not me? I have a slightly complicated family dynamic. I'm 16 female and I have an older brother who is now 19. My brother and I are full bio siblings. We share the same parents. We lost our mom to fatal disease when we were kids. My brother and my dad's relationship had been bad throughout mom's sickness, and when she got too sick to care for us and ended up in a nursing facility, our maternal grandparents took custody of my brother. He wanted to be with them more than dad. It was for the best generally because I feel like the house would have been toxic with them living together. I continued to have a relationship with my brother. We just didn't live together anymore. My dad didn't want it exactly, but he knew that denying my brother access to me could backfire on him. He spoke to a lawyer to decide how much time we would see each other without courts potentially becoming involved or maybe CPS. So I got the bare minimum contact with my brother. Didn't matter because he wasn't able to tear us apart. I was 7 and my brother was 10 when this arrangement first started. Our mom died 5 months into her time at the facility. I was 9 when Dad met his second wife. She has a daughter the same age as me. My stepsister is okay, but I don't think of her as a sibling really. My brother has zero relationship with her. They have never met to my knowledge and I don't know that they ever will. My stepsister has been jealous from the beginning that I have a brother who doesn't want to be her brother too, and that I don't want to be her sister. She has questioned why he doesn't live with us and why we're not both equally treated like his sisters and why he's dad's kid but not living with us. She apparently drove her mom and my dad crazy when I was spending time with my brother and away from them. She'd ask to come most of the time, and a few times she even approached my grandma and asked her to take her along. Now that my brother's an adult and he works and goes to college, our relationship is different. I see him more often because I just decide to go see him and he'll meet me someplace. It bothers my stepsister more now that I'm with my brother more. I also see my grandparents more because of this. But then last weekend things got kinda worse. My brother and his boyfriend had gone to a Nickelodeon amusement park and he brought me back some Avatar: The Last Airbender merch. We're both huge fans, so it was great. But my stepsister started asking more questions about why he never gives her anything and why he treats her so different. My dad said since I insist on maintaining contact with my brother despite his rejection of our other sister, then I could explain to my stepsister. I retorted that it was his job as the adult to explain things to my stepsister. I also told him that he created this whole mess and he could fix it, and he was now pawning it off onto me. He said I should speak to him with more respect because he is my father. Am I the asshole? Not the asshole. You are absolutely 100% correct. He's the adult and parent, you are neither. I can understand why your brother wanted to get out with his absurdly childish behavior. He's the one who fucked up on being a parent to your brother, and he needs to own it. Not that I expect him to. Not the asshole. Your sister is 16 and doesn't get it? This made sense when you were both 9, but at this point I wouldn't bother explaining to her that she has a delayed mental capacity. That's completely her parents' job and barely her step-parents' job. Not the asshole, you are correct. Your father should be the one explaining this mess to his stepdaughter. Not the asshole, it's not your job to maintain a healthy family for him, even if he's your dad. You've done your part, as far as I can tell. Just keep your head focused on yourself and maintain the relationships you want to maintain. Not the asshole, this is not your responsibility or your brother's if he tries to pawn it off on him later. Glad to hear you guys still have a close relationship. Am I the asshole for making it clear to my stepmom that I don't want her to be present when I give birth? My stepmom saw a comment I made on a Facebook post several weeks ago that said I would probably have my mom in the delivery room with me if she were still alive. The post was from a page I follow asking expectant parents if they thought their moms being there would bring them some comfort. She messaged me on Facebook when she saw it and told me I could still have one of my moms there, her. I replied back that it wasn't her I meant. I saw her a few days after and she brought up to me how embarrassing it was to have me openly state that on social media where people could see. She said most would assume I have 2 moms and that she would be worthy of being invited. I told her my reply was not said to embarrass her, but I was being honest about my feelings on the topic. She brought it up more times and tried to advocate for me, saying yes. When I kept saying no, she said I was blessed with 2 moms and sometimes I act as though I only have one. The background to this is as follows. I lost my mom when I was 6 and dad remarried just before I turned 8. My stepmom wanted to adopt me when they got married, but I didn't want that. My dad didn't want to waste the money if I'd tell a judge I didn't want it and said judge sided with me. I think my stepmom tried to be a good second mom and tried to fill the space my mom used to. She didn't remove mom's memory, but she did compete with her memory a lot. I never wanted a second mom and always saw her as more of a dad's wife than a stepmom, but saying stepmom seemed like a compromise to not rock the boat too much. She has 4 sons with my dad. She's a good mom to them, though I think she always wanted a daughter, and I do believe that is part of the reason she could never let go of the whole mom thing. But anyway, the topic was not dropped by my stepmom. I changed the subject a lot when she brought it up, but over the weekend it came up again and she said I was already honoring my mom and Mill with my daughter's name. Not their actual names but associations with them, and I have never acknowledged her as being a mom to me or even a grandma to my daughter, and the least I could do is let her be there and let her support me the way I dream my mom would. She told me she could be my greatest advocate and it would go a long way for acknowledging the mother-daughter nature of our relationship. I made it very clear to her then that I did not want her there, and yes, I want my mom, but she never held that title for me. I told her that she was my stepmom and she was not someone I would feel comfortable having there for the moment. She was upset and tried to pull my dad into it, but he refused to get involved, which, no surprises there. My stepmom said if I didn't want her there then I should have at least deleted those comments, and she also said I had made it very clear I think nothing of her feelings. Am I the asshole? ETA. The messages were DMs and not public. Not the asshole. You feel the way you feel and she needs to accept that and move on. It's not your fault that she inserted herself into a situation she was not invited and it turns out also not welcome. You have zero obligation to have anyone that isn't medical staff in the room with you while you give birth. Your comfort is second only to your health during such a stressful event, and you shouldn't feel the need to include anyone you aren't entirely comfortable having with you. Not the asshole, but I think your reply to her on Facebook was a little hurtful to her, as I think initially she genuinely felt that she was doing good by stepping up and trying to be there for you. Other than that, your feelings are justified. If you don't want her there, then that's your choice. With the whole competing with the memories with your mother, I think she is insecure and trying to prove some point. But she needs to understand that not everything is about her, and if she was more understanding of that, maybe the relationship wouldn't be so distant between you both. In the end it's your decision, and she should just stop victimizing herself and drop the subject as it's clearly going nowhere. Edit. She stated that the Facebook conversation was through DMs, not publicly. Not the asshole, and once and for all, childbirth is not a spectator sport. I'm sorry your stepmother is offended, and I might have messaged her privately rather than respond on a public Facebook post. But she is ridiculous trying to demand a level of closeness that simply doesn't exist. Not the asshole. I think some people are missing or not understanding what was visible to others on your social media. You commented on something a page or group posted, that you'd want your mom at the birth. Your stepmom saw the comment and private messaged you, and you replied to her private message. Correct? Your comment that she and perhaps others saw was that you'd want your mom at the birth. You're allowed to miss your mom and want her at such a special and vulnerable time. Also, your stepmom sounds pushy. No means no. Stop trying to weasel into the birth. Not the asshole, you were commenting about your mom. SM inserted herself in this. She knew you were not talking about her. Am I the asshole for not letting my mother come live with me? I, 41 female, and my husband, 42 male, live with our 5-year-old son in a 2-bedroom apartment. I also have 2 adult children and a granddaughter, who live on their own. I had a traumatic childhood. My mother and I have a strained relationship because of it. I've been to therapy and she has not. I've learned to forgive, and due to my culture, Indigenous American, I personally cannot just go no contact without severe repercussion from the rest of my family who were supporting and did indeed try to help me. My mother, now 62, lives back in our home state. She still has a drinking problem. She recently divorced her husband, moved out of her apartment and became roommates with this young couple, early 20s. She needs a new place to stay as they want to start a family and have asked her to move out. We recently had a fight because I discovered she has been drunk driving. Drunk driving is a hard boundary for me as I've lost several family members from it. I've had to help those family members through it. You don't want to know the pain of picking coffins for toddlers. I won't drink and drive. Period. Learning my mother had been doing it made me furious. I stopped talking to her for several weeks because she admitted she's had to do it several times to get home. I've taught her to use Uber and Lyft. As a child, 10-ish, I had to drive to the bar to pick her up some nights, if I knew she'd have to get up in the morning. I did this frequently enough the bouncer and bartender knew who I was and who I was there for. When I learned she'd been doing it again, I was livid. Then she asked if she could come live with me and my husband. I told her there are rules and she'd have to abide by them. I don't think they are unreasonable. The rules: 1. Absolutely no drunk driving. If I find out she was drinking and driving, she'd be asked to leave regardless of the time or day. 2. Do not get drunk in front of my son or my G-daughter. If my husband and I drink, it's after he goes to bed. Our G-daughter sometimes comes and spends the night and the same rule would apply. 3. She may not share a room with the baby. We'd make a space for her in the living room until we found a larger place to accommodate her. 4. More warning than a rule, I did say I was finished picking her up from bars. Those are the rules. After hearing them, she stated, I can't promise I won't do that. So I said simply, then the answer is no. She said, fine, and has been distant since. She called me several days later saying she's a grown woman and I can't force her not to drink. I never said she's not allowed to drink. I said, don't drink and drive and don't be drunk around my son and granddaughter. Of course she called my aunties and my uncles and told them I won't let her live with me. I did explain it to them, and I'm being told from them she's my mother and I should care for her the way she did for my gran. So am I the asshole? Strong, not the asshole. If your family members are so understanding and caring, why doesn't she go live with them? Or maybe in a rehab facility, because it definitely sounds like that would be helpful for her. Not the asshole, and don't let her live with you. She's lying and will absolutely break your rules. Do you really want this kind of influence around your kids? Not the asshole. You know you're right. How different would your childhood have been if you'd had someone to screen you from your mom's behavior when you were a kid? Protect your children. I don't even think I'd let her live with me even if she did agree with your rules, because you know she can't follow them. Ask her to get some help for the drinking, and once she's been sober for a year, you can revisit the whole subject. But right now's got to be a hard no. Not the asshole. These are your boundaries. If she can't promise to live within them, don't let her stay. I guarantee she will have broken every one of your boundaries within a week, but by then you will be stuck with her. Let someone else in the family take her in. Not the asshole.